Okay, ladies and gentlemen, lords, ladies and gentlemen, it's me, it's Nick, I'm back again. I've probably got a lousy camera angle, but never mind, it's Saturday morning, at least at the time when I'm shooting this, so I'm going to be a bit more relaxed, and I'm going to wear a rather faded hoodie because I feel like wearing a rather faded hoodie. Okay, here we go. As I say, Nick Dutch back again. Yes, I've got a book on lulu.com, damn, go for it, read it, buy it, whatever. But what am I talking about today, and why am I talking about it? And it's to do with the pipeline. The pipeline, okay? You've seen some fair few videos over the past week or two of me looking at my own industry and seeing the bad things that's in it, and reporting that as a result of a need for integrity and to make sure that people understand where I'm coming from as a person in my trade from an ethical standpoint, and that there is lots of wrong things going on, and I don't like it. And I want to act against it. But let's talk about the pipeline and what the pipeline is. Now, I'm going to have to ask you to imagine for a second, all right? Imagine for a second that all of the, the angel imagery, that's gone. All of the pagan imagery, that's gone. Okay, all of the beliefs and all the magic and all of that's just gone. And the only thing you've got is the commercial footprint of each and every single individual within the occult, magical, pagan, New Age world, okay? How do you end up as a psychic client or as a person who is prepared to spend money on magic and rituals and ritual tools and accessories? Okay, now I'm going to describe this from someone who's not like me. I came into this because I saw ghosts at the age 4, okay, and so on and so forth, and it got rather complicated and I couldn't understand it and I had to find a way of doing so. As well as the fact I had very serious issues with my health and I needed a cure, and these people promised a miracle, and therefore I wanted a miracle, okay? And then I went mad and it got really, really difficult and so on and so forth. But what was going on? What led me to go insane? What led me to reach the point whereby I invested my entire heart, my entire mind, my entire soul and spirit in the pursuit of magic? And in what way was that beneficial? In what way was that negative? Because these things need looking at and need addressing. What is the pipeline? You've come into the world, you've never had a psychic experience in your entire life. Bam, you suddenly developed an interest. How come? It comes from somewhere. There is a hook which brings you into a trade. There's a hook which brings you into the path towards making a purchase. Many years ago, I worked in sales. I worked in marketing, anything from small, one-man band jobs right up to beautiful, glass-fronted offices and people on cocaine, that sort of thing, and we were taught about the pipeline then. And initially there is a hook, you get someone interested. Then once you've got someone interested, then you do an explanation. And the explanation itself is supposed to show benefits and opportunity and to build a dream or vision for the future. And then you speak about urgency. Maybe the urgency to go ahead with the deal, and then bam, you take the money. That's the pipeline for media sales, roughly speaking. It's a few more complexes and nuances associated when you're actually working on the phone amongst all these cocaine-addicted thugs who got thrown out of school, okay? But never mind. That's the pipeline. It's how business operates. So there's a hook. At some point, there is a hook that brings you in. You're interested for some reason. Someone has introduced you to the idea. Somehow the idea has been introduced to you that magic is not just something in children's books. Okay? But you have a need and you have a want. Now, the world is full of pipeline things. I read a book a long time ago by a woman called Shelley von Struckmore. This was sociologically interesting, anthropologically interesting, and interesting when you're looking at the whole of the world from a bird's eye, and you're seeing this book as being a phenomena amongst lots of other different intellectual and ideological forces, basically the complicated interconnected web of life, which all of you are supposed to understand and supposed to believe in, okay? It's a thing which exists in the world. The book was shit. I have never seen quite such a collection of rapid fire superstitious belief being thrown at me all in one go, and it was ludicrous. Now, fortunately for me, I'd had a few experiences with things like ghosts and stuff like that, and I could tell that the things which I'd experienced had a very different energy to all the stuff that she was talking about. And I mean dramatically so. She was talking about people in actors. actors in plays, and he's playing the part of a voodoo priest, and he's lit the wrong colour candle on a Tuesday afternoon, and all of a sudden he starts acting weirdly, and then, oh my God, a priest has to be called in to exorcise the evil demon. Why has this woman written this story? It's lies. Why has she written it? Style of writing. Not very precise. Not very academic. Not very intelligent, but somehow persuasive. Not in depth, not talking about all the various different social, economic, energetic forces that could be happening to make things happen in the world. Not breaking down spirituality or spiritual forces, then providing some variety of guidance and instructions to how the natural world in this particular context could actually work. No, none of that. Leaving that mysterious. Why? To get more sales. Somehow inside you, there's a sense of disquiet, maybe a feeling of cognitive dissonance, maybe a sense of confusion, maybe a sense of fear. What if all of this is real? And there are like massive spirits and angels and ghosts and demons out there, and I can't see them and I don't know what they're about, they could be doing something terrible. This is an emotion she was trying to stimulate in you. Based on what? The story which she told you. I hate that woman. With a vengeance. But it was a pipeline book. It's there to stimulate belief and faith. It's not there to educate, to inform, to uplift, and to move people forward. We cannot see books of that type as being sufficiently appropriate to guide us in our thoughts. But that's a pipeline book. It's a sales piece. She knows full well that there's a sufficient audience that's going to go straight for that stuff to give her the money she needs to live, as well as knowing where her part in the pipeline is. All right, so you heard someone, I know, in a pub say something. That stimulated your thoughts. Eventually you go to a bookshop and you buy a book. Then that gets your thoughts going further, and you're trying to solve the mystery, you're trying to solve the mystery, you're trying to solve the mystery. You buy more books, and eventually you go to the New Age shop, and you buy things there, and you go this, that, and the other, and you buy things there, and then after 20, 30, 40, 50 years, maybe you've decided it's not for you. But the money's gone out of your account, and it's gone into the trade. Not specifically to one particular 1% user in the trade, because it's a bit more, broad spread. Although there are, of course, only about half a dozen psychic companies in the world. They run like loads of websites, so there is a 1%, influence here. But can you see that there's an actual pipeline? An actual pipeline which leads people to spend money. This is the sales pipeline, and the sales pipeline in the New Age world uses New Age ideas, or occult ideas, or magical ideas, or religious ideas for the purposes of making things even more complicated. When it becomes religion, then all of a sudden, bam, it's in there in your heart, isn't it? It's your faith, it's your identity, it's what matters to you. What happens then in the pipeline? What role are you fulfilling? You are fulfilling the role of the individual who goes out and plants the hook. They've turned you into the person who plants the hook to bring you into the trade. Right? You've become an unofficial salesman. But the pitch is different. Right? The pitch is different. You started out with maybe a bit of superstitious fear and dread, maybe a bit of anxiety, concern, interest, curiosity. You don't really know. You spend a bit more money, a bit more ideas come your way. Spend a bit more money, a few more ideas come your way. Are you getting closer to your goal? You don't know. What is your goal? Have you thought it through? How are you supposed to be reaching? What intellectual and academic sources should you be going through in order to build yourself up as a person so you can reach that goal? These are other things you need to think about in your life, right? But the pipeline is still there. Now, in many respects, great. Good. All right, we have an engine in place which is going to help people to, maybe find their own spirituality and move in the right direction and so on and so forth. But remember, this year, 2025, is when the British government has, as a result of need, set up a ritual abuse task force. Now, the pipeline itself can drive people insane. I've told you about my story On a couple of occasions of over 30 years ago now, when I got involved in the magical communities because I wanted a cure for my diseases, they promised something that worked, and hey presto, it didn't. Now, if I was someone who had come into the magical world because, let's say, I was a neurotypical healthy individual and just wanted a relationship and I wanted to light a yellow candle on a Tuesday afternoon, and because I happened to be a fit, healthy, happy, wealthy, successful person, I was able to attract the right quality of person, everything works out fine, and I'll be happy, and I'll turn around to people and say, it worked. And in doing that, in turning around to people and saying it worked, not only would I be lying, because the reason I got the relationship was because I was a happy, healthy, wealthy, well-adjusted individual with all the right social skills and clarity of mind and all the rest of that, and I was in the right place, in the right time to be able to get that marriage. Okay, that's the reality of it. But she then turns around and says, it works. Hooking you into something. Now, the direction you can end up going with this could be a wide variety of different things, all right? But remember that commerce and spirituality have always been interconnected. If you think about the Catholic history, why was there, was it pure lamb's wool in the coffins? Well, actually, there was a need to get more wool sold because the sheep farmers needed a bit of work. Okay. Why were they eating fish on a Friday? Well, actually, the fishermen need to sell some more product. Okay, so there is always going to be this give and take between the spiritual and the economic. And within this world, there's lots of things you can be encouraged to spend your money on, which might help, might not help, or might just be a fun temporary distraction for a while. But what specifically are you looking for? What direction do you want to get in? And where are you going with this? All right, now, we are very much in the commercial world. It becomes very difficult to conceptualize of personal change without spending money, all right? But it would be good if we could try and find a way of bringing wisdom into the occult, magical, and pagan world so that the feeling or the imperative to spend quite so much money is not as extreme. And on top of that, it would be good if we could try and use the culture which is evolving as a result of occultism, magic, paganism, witchcraft, and the rest of that, to bring more positive ideas about healing into the world. We really should be moving the balance in that direction in general, rather than the direction that we're in at the moment. It is just a question of cults fighting each other, and all of these cults are people have been brought into this as a result of a series of hooks. The hooks themselves don't necessarily match reality. We can't say anymore that paganism is about the environment if there are pagans who are campaigning against environmental technology, okay? When you're going through the process of the pipeline, your psychic world, your visual world, your imaginary world, your ideological world is being shifted bit by bit by bit by bit by bit as you carry on. You are changing as an individual. You are turning into something different. Instead of being a curious individual who's curious about nature, you become someone who's passionate for your cult. Why? Because you being passionate for your cult helps somebody else make money. All right? This is a world in which we require fewer salespeople because we've got cult members going around saying it works all the damn time. And I don't want people to go around saying it works all the damn time, because it's an aberration of truth and reality. When I came into all of this stuff, I expected there to be progression, I expected there to be science, I expected there to be knowledge, I expected there to be healing, and I expected there to be pretty damn good people. Not an entire culture of people who behave so fucking badly that the government has to step in and set up a fucking ritual abuse task force. The pipeline creates problems. Intellectual problems, emotional problems, psychological problems. And the pipeline itself, which is much more diffuse and complicated. In sales, you've got a structured way of doing it: pitch, benefits, urgency, and then close. And then there's various different closing techniques. We're asked to watch The Boiler Room with Ben Affleck and all that kind of crap, and it's really shit. But it tells you how the world works, all right? The New Age world exists in this world because it's economically viable. It's raising tax revenue, it's raising people up. It gives people an income. It's given me an income, it's given me the ability to work as an individual who's naturally talented in this way, but is also an autistic chronic fatigue sufferer who can't, do a normal job. All right, it's done, therefore, me good. And I've chosen to try and do good in it, and to try and distract people away from the stupidity of some of the previous ideas. Why am I interested in deism? Because deism, when introduced to the complexity of the superstition and poor thinking which goes on currently, and is making the pipeline a very dangerous place for people to be, could be easily the thing which would change the problem. I'm not kidding. And maybe we could create an occult, magical, pagan, and spiritual world which actually fulfills its function and doesn't harm people on the way. I'm telling you this as a person who has a 19 years solid history as a professional tarot reader working in the psychic industry. I'm telling you this as someone who identifies, to a certain degree, as a magician. I'm telling you this as someone who goes to church and has a long history in the Church of England, which I've unfortunately left 4.5 years ago to join a different expression, which I'll tell you about another time. The pipeline itself, and with the various different psychological aberrations which happen within it, personally did me a lot of harm. I got a lot of good out of it for myself with the passage of time. But it did me a lot of harm in the early days. What are we going to do to change the use of language and ideas within our communities in order to make sure that we are doing good in the world and not harm, which is going to lead to human death? Nick Dutch out.